All right, our guest tonight on Toyota Sports Talk. It's been a little while, but great to have former Washington Redskins quarterback Mark Rypien back on the program. Mark, great to see you. How are you, my friend?
Doing fine. A little cold here in Spokane, but I'm doing great. Scott, how are you doing in the
Good.
DC area there?
It's a little chilly here in DC. I could use some sunshine and warm weather. I need some golfing weather, as you know.
Well, come on down and join me in
I
Orlando. I'm
know.
going to be down there in about a week and visiting the grandkids and daughter.
Good. That's awesome. You deserve it. And I know you were able to see the renderings, Rip,
Yeah,
of the new stadium for the Commanders. You saw the renderings and you thought what?
well, I thought I'm glad they kept the kind of the theme of the old RFK, and then just looking how they positioned it straight up to the Capitol building was, I think, pretty. Someone put some thought into this, and I think it's going to be great for the community there, two for Commander Redskin fans to get back to the old stomping grounds and start winning championships again.
To have a stadium, it's almost like they kind of duplicated the original RFK and just modernized it. Obviously, there's some modern touches, but it seems like the soul of RFK is still kind of in that rendering.
100%, and I think that's kudos to Josh and the team of architectural designers that put this thing together to kind of keep the same concept and keep the same ideas as what won us championships back in the 80s and 90s. So I'm just excited. 2030 can't come soon enough, I think, for everyone. And it's just, I think, going to be a wonderful, wonderful addition to that area and the people in that area, and to put shops and the design, or from what I've heard, the overall concept is to make it a very vibrant place and place you want to take your family for dinners and shops and all the good things that come with it. So
when you see a design of a new stadium like that, Rip, does it make you want to put on the helmet and shoulder pads again?
Not one bit. It makes me want to go out there and cheer our guys on and our coaching staff and Josh and his group to get another one of those Lombardi trophies and honor the past versus what's coming here in the present, and just to make sure that, you know, the people in Washington, D.C. deserve something great like this. It's going to rejuvenate our fan base, and I think our fan base has already kind of been rejuvenated to see the excitement in the area. We just got to keep our guys healthy, you know, and that's the most important part. And it also plays a big role in winning championships. The years that we did win Super Bowls, we stayed pretty healthy, and it was one of the turning stones to make our run for Super Bowls the way they were. So,
Rip, obviously the big difference with this edition of RFK is the roof, right? You had no roof on the original. What are your thoughts on having a roof? Obviously, most stadiums are going toward that way now.
Well, I don't know, and I didn't see from the renderings. Could tell from the renderings if a retractable roof or not.
No, it's not. It's not going to be. It's just going to be a translucent roof.
Yeah. Well, I think that a couple things. One, I mean, for players playing always on natural grass was so much easier to play on as far as injuries and things of that nature. To have artificial turf, and even though the artificial turf has gotten so much better over the years, it's still the susceptibility to injury increases, you know, when you have artificial grass versus natural grass. So if they can put somehow do that, some sort of grass in there and grow grass, and but I don't think that's possible when you put a roof on top. So unless they can do what they do in Phoenix, and that's retract the thing out and get photosynthesis going and keep the grass green and push it back in for game times, that would be kind of cool. But I don't think they have the room to do so there, and so it'll great either way. I think it was always wonderful when I was a backup to be on teams and play in dome stadiums, because you got, you know, the circumstances, you know, is going to be consistent throughout. You know, you're going to have the field's going to be the same. You know, there's going to be no weather or anything that's going to put any damper to what you're trying to do.
And another positive of having a roof is you're probably going to get a Super Bowl down the line, because that's kind of the track record of the NFL. You build a nice stadium with a roof, you're probably going to get a Super Bowl. How about a Super Bowl in Washington, D.C. down the road, Rip?
That would be awesome. And our nation's capital, I think, deserves something of that nature. Also, it would be nice if our, you know, they're playing, I think, in San Francisco. I know the 49ers faithful would love to have their 49ers back there for the final game. Wouldn't it be great if we did get our first Super Bowl? And it would be, I'm not going to say the first one. Maybe we can win one in the meantime, but it'd be a chance to have our team the Commanders represented in Washington, D.C. at a Super Bowl.
So why do you think it's so important to you, maybe your teammates and the fans, to have this new stadium back at the RFK site?
Well, I just think it brings everything full circle. My good buddy, Drew Bledsoe, played for the Patriots and is in the wine business. And so he calls his wine double back. And I think that's kind of what it is, to double back to the same site that all these world championships were fostered in. And I think that's the great thing about doing so. And there's just such a connect to that area and the people in that area and the Washington faithful that will bring them back to an area that they are very familiar with and we're all familiar with and winning Super Bowls.
I wanted to pick your brain quickly on Jayden Daniels. Obviously, injuries kind of really derailed his second season in the NFL. What's some advice you would give Jayden as he approaches a big offseason going into year number 3?
Well, obviously health is the most important thing. And anytime you're having an offense that you've got a guy that's mobile like him and the RPOs, run pass options that are particular to that, you just got to be careful. You don't want to be running those every single play and put him in danger. I mean, he's not the biggest of stature. He's a strong kid and tough kid. And we all know that. There's nothing, but that's also one of the things that we got to make sure, that as tough as he is and we just got to make sure he's healthy, and we don't need to run as many of those. I still think it's a big weapon that he has and that we can use. And if he just stays healthy and our core stays healthy, there's some great possibilities in Washington in the years ahead.
Yeah, how can this team bounce back? Because obviously year number 1 with Jayden and Quinn and Peters, they made the NFC Championship game last year. This past year, injuries really kind of decimated this team. So here coming up in 2026, how do they kind of bounce back?
Well, I think, one of the things that they're going to look for is to get that DC position filled and someone reputable. I know Dan Quinn himself is that's his side of the football, but he's got all sorts of other things he does within the organization, within the team, that makes us successful. So, but finding a DC that's compatible with Dan does and what the team does, and building our defense to that place where we were back in when we played, is that our defense complemented our offense, and which complemented our special teams. And the special teams game has changed because of the kickoff now, but it's still dynamic, and you still have to have a place for our great special teams play. We had Brian Mitchell that maybe should be and arguably is the next candidate to the Hall of Fame and should get there. But having those guys, a player to come out of that special teams and be the next Brian Mitchell, I think would also be a big plus. So I think to complement the offense with the defense and finding that defensive coordinator and just getting the stature of this team back to where we think they were a couple of years ago.
And I'm sure you saw the offensive coordinator changes. Cliff Kingsbury no more, but they promoted a David Blau. Now, David Blau's been working with Jayden the last couple of years. He was the assistant quarterbacks coach for the last 2 years here in Washington. How important is that, to keep the continuity, familiarity for Jayden, to have a David Blau kind of rise up to OC now?
Well, I think they have Cliff's concepts were great, and no one can argue that. I think he did a pretty good, magnificent job when he was there in Washington. I think David has the same kind of philosophy and has the same rapport because he worked on a day-to-day basis with Jayden. So I think that is I think in particular a process that they needed to mesh and continue going in that direction, because I think they're growing and heading in the right way, and having David there to be with Jayden is I think going to be something that's going to benefit the team and down the road.
All right, great insight, great perspective, great catching up with Mark Rypien. Mark, appreciate your time, and go hit some golf balls, will you?
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right, much more to come right here on Toyota Sports Talk. Stay with us.